bending, broken rule. Hound dog howling, bullfrog croaking. Everything is broken.
Hi, and welcome to another edition of Dad's Divorce Live. I'm Matt Allen, editor of DadsDivorce.com. Today we're talking with Doug McKee. Doug has written a book called A Father's Journey to Custody. It's aimed at enlightening fathers on the importance of positive participation in their children's lives. I spent some time with it this weekend. It's an easy read. It's pretty straightforward, less than 100 pages, so it won't take a lot of your time, but the impact it has on some of the advice he offers will be lasting. So Doug is with us right now. Thanks, Doug, for joining us.
Good. Thank you for having me, Matt. I appreciate it.
And your book, it starts off on a pretty personal note, describing your own experience in your custody battle. What was that experience like, and what were some of the emotions involved for you?
As a divorced dad, most fathers know if they're going through it, there's a whole slew of things that kind of go through your mind when you make a decision that your marriage is over, and actually coming up with the realization that you're no longer going to be a participant in that marriage, and then actually leaving. There's like 3 different stages to it. Mm-hmm. And so when you actually make that decision, or when I actually made the decision, and was actually, as you read at the very beginning, when I was moving the furniture out of the house, mm-hmm. I mean, all sorts of emotions go through your mind. Sadness, there's fear, there's doubt, there's an amount of frustration, kind of intermixed with a sense of almost relief from getting out of a bad marriage, and a sense of being set free from something that was uncomfortable. But it's this cyclical deal that keeps going back to the, in my situation, which I was removing myself from the residence, my children would remain there for the time being. That was very difficult, knowing that they're going to wake up the next day and Dad wasn't going to be there. Things are going to be different for the boys. So, right. Really kind of a twister of emotions inside of yourself.
Now, in your custody battle, your kids ended up moving cross country, right?
That's correct.
And then, so how did you? I guess they came back to live with you in Arizona. What was that like? I guess when they moved cross country, and sort of the experience in getting them back to you in Arizona.
Well, a lot of money spent back flying right. back and forth. I had every other month I would fly out there, pick them up, fly them back to Arizona. They'd spend a month with me. Then I would fly them back to the East Coast, where they'd spend a month with their mother, and it went on like that for a series of years.
Wow.
It's really tough, and I mean, of course, there's the great joy of picking them up and being able to see them and spend those times with them, the nights and the fun things you can do. But after spending a solid month with them and bringing them back to Mom for the month, boy, there's a real hole that's left inside you, and it's really tough to deal with. But it was something that I was willing to do to make sure that they had a relationship with their father, make sure that we could maintain that bond that we tried so hard to create.
And like I mentioned, a lot of our viewers, they've gone through similar situations, similar custody battles that you went through. But what was different with you? What made you decide to put your experience and the advice you have into a book? Why'd you decide to write this?
Well, at the time, there wasn't a lot out there for fathers seeking custody. The internet was fairly new, and there wasn't a lot available. And I was really trying to find literature or things that I could, or avenues that I could share with other fathers, and there just wasn't a lot out there at my disposal. So I kind of promised myself, when this was all over, I know I'm not the only person in this situation, that there'd be a lot of fathers out there that would love at least to read about what they're going to be going through. And I just kind of promised myself I was going to write down a book and when I was all done with it, and I did. So the opportunity was there for me to share for other fathers to kind of learn from my experience and hopefully help them out with their children.
Mm-hmm. And your book is, you've tried to set up an arrangement with attorneys in some of the states around you where clients will, I guess, end up getting that book as part of the retainer fee. Why do you feel this is so important to get in every father's hand who's going through the same thing?
Well, Matt, when you read the book, there was a bunch of things flagged in the book that I had flagged with little sad faces.
Right.
And these were mistakes that I had made.
Okay.
Prior to my ex or myself retaining an attorney, and certainly I was very honest about the mistakes that I made even after that had happened. And I think it's important for every father to be able to say, okay, look, you're emotionally involved in this. It's a very stressful thing. And even though you have counsel that is supposed to give you some guidance to some degree, they're not with you 24/7.
Right.
You need to keep yourself in check, and you need to make sure you're walking the line correctly and doing all the things that your children deserve to have done for them by their father. And the importance of this book is it does flag out these important things and very clearly shows the mistakes that I made so fathers won't make them, so they can continue to keep this positive relationship with their children, and they won't have to go through what I went through with that relocation and all that, the legal stuff that went along with it. It's expensive and emotionally tormenting.
Right. And for the fathers out there, what were some of those mistakes you made early on?
Well, I think as most dads feel when they get out of a bad marriage, it's easy to have what I refer to in the book as the I'm free attitude. Mm-hmm. And you tend to think that your responsibilities, unrightfully so, have been suspended for a time being. You have at least I went through a time I had my own place. It was just down the road from the river where I would go fishing, and one of the mistakes that I made is while I was out there fishing in the afternoon, why wasn't I picking my children up from daycare and taking them and doing something fun?
Right.
They were a little too young to be taking out in a boat by myself yet, but there were, hundreds of other things we could have been doing. Mm-hmm. Could have been spending time with them doing things, and that's just one of them. And I just think it's important for dads to look at that and say, okay, I have this extra time. What am I going to do with it? And what's the most important thing? And that should be the children.
Mm-hmm. Now, your book, it's filled with tips, advice, ranging from everything to legal strategies, to how you should act in court, to getting more involved in your kids' education, to preparing your home for small children when they're visiting you. But if you had to give one best piece of advice, one takeaway point to fathers going through this time, what would that be?
Well, I'd have to say that if you follow the principles in this book, you're following the principles of good fathering, and regardless of the legal outcome of your case, as long as you follow these principles, that you're going to build a great relationship with your children, and you're going to be able to maintain that relationship with your children. And that is the most important thing here, that the children have a father that they can count on. And like I said, regardless of the legal outcome, whether you get custody or not, you have established a positive relationship with your children and a bond that just can't be broken. And the children are going to benefit for that, and so will you.
Well, Doug, I want to thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Matt. I appreciate the exposure and the opportunity to talk with you.
Sure thing. That was Doug McKee, the author of A Father's Journey to Custody. You can find out more information about Doug and his book at www.fathersseekingcustody.com. I'm Matt Allen, editor of DadsDivorce.com, and that'll do it for this edition of Dad's Divorce Live.